money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, August 8th. We are here live. It is a free-for-all today. We only have an hour, so I don't have much of an open. I'll just kind of talk about whatever until we get some phone calls in here. Those lines are open. If you're watching on the live stream, you can pick up the phone and dial 855 950-3835. If you're listening on the app, you can hit that call now button. That'll get you right in here. Anything goes. If you want to talk about anything at all, we've got a free-for-all. Jump in and join us. I believe everything is working today. We should check here pretty quick and see what's going on. I think we've got everything worked out on the app. All right, we're checking the app is working, so I know people are listening to me, so I expect the phones to ring any minute now. While we're waiting to line up some calls here, I took that time off a little over a week. I monitored the basic headlines, really didn't dig into much of anything. Just wanted to make sure the world didn't completely fall apart while I was hiding out in the woods. And this week I've been back and I've been really digging deeper into things and reading more. And I don't even know what to think. That there was this whole thing going around with the Democrats calling the Republicans weird. And what was weird about it, and this happens a lot since about 95% of the media seems to be much more left-leaning. It seems like they must have a big meeting in the morning because they all talk about the same things, which is, I get you're talking about the same things. They use the same words on the same day. It's like it's choreographed. So it turns out, I guess the new running mate for Kamala, he was the one that started the whole weird word, and then everybody picked up on it. And I'm looking at the whole thing, everything that's going on in our country right now, and weird is probably a really good word to describe it. And the more I read and the more I just think about it, I just not really sure what's going on. Even the Olympics this year, how did we screw that up? The Olympics when I was growing up, that was a big thing, a really big thing. Um, Not so much anymore. I'm certainly, I haven't watched a single event this year, but just the stories that I've been reading, um, everything about it just seems, I'll keep using that word, weird. We are going to have two biological males boxing for a gold medal. Now, I thought for a while they were going to be boxing against each other, but they're in different divisions. But there are two biological males in the finals for women's boxing. That's pretty weird. They were, I never realized this, how filthy that river is in Paris. It's not safe to go in the water, but they spent, I don't know, billions of dollars or some crazy amount to try to clean it up, and yet they still had swimmers getting sick, really sick from swimming in the water. The stories just go on and on. It's like we have the opening ceremonies were weird, and why couldn't we just leave the Olympics alone? Why did we have to politicize the Olympics like this? And anymore, we politicize everything. But I'm just looking around at our country and what's going on. How did we end up with a presidential candidate that has never won a single delegate vote ever in her life. I've won as many delegates as Kamala Harris has. Zero. Not one delegate has ever voted for her to be the presidential candidate. And yet she is. And the media seems to love her. And yet she had, not that long ago, a month, she had the worst rating of any vice president in history, I think, or certainly recent history. When she ran for president, she couldn't even win her own state. And she was the first one to drop out. And now all of it, and I don't understand why you're not allowed to say that she's a DEI hire. She clearly is. Joe Biden told us that for a month or more prior to choosing her. He said, I'm going to choose a woman of color. That is the definition of a DEI hire. So I don't understand why they get angry when you say that now. I thought this is supposed to be a good thing. I thought the whole DEI thing was good. That's what they told us. And if that's the case, why is it bad for us to say she's a DEI hire? And speaking of Biden, what happened to him? Where is he? Did he just quit? Do we have a president anymore? Who's running the country? All right. Almost everything I have to talk about today at some point will come back to politics, unfortunately, because it's all that seems to be in the news right now. All of the industry news is just very, very mixed still. I read reports where people expect things to get better, and I'm looking at the economy and I expect things to get worse. But we will see. So I've got some calls coming in. I will take them. Phone lines are open. We don't have a whole lot of time, so jump in and join us. Anything goes today. You can ask me anything you want. I don't care what it pertains to at all. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about today. Let's go to Wyoming to get started. Tom, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kevin. Hey, we are going to see the president today. He's going to go to the beach, so they're going to follow him over there, apparently, because they were asking about that earlier.
What is he going to the beach to look for invading submarines or something? There should be a reason he's going to the beach.
Yeah, he's gonna. I hope he slathers on that sunscreen oil that he probably needs so bad, or some sunscreen cream or whatever you call it.
Look, did he just quit?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And then
did he just quit?
No,
is he
he's
doing anything?
He's on vacation.
Can we get somebody to run the country, please?
I thought for sure they killed him.
Yeah, I did too. I was beginning to worry about that.
Yeah. I thought, well, maybe that's a body double or something,
or that he just died. That isn't out of the question.
Well, yeah, they did. The funny thing is, before that debate, they didn't give him his usual cocktail that they give him before the debate.
No, that was a total
They wanted
setup.
him to fail.
Everything
they wanted him to fail that debate.
Yeah, everything about that screams total setup. First off, they moved the date up out of the blue. Just no, we're just going to debate now. Where did that come from? We haven't heard from him for months, and now he's going to debate right now. And he shows up, and what a total train wreck! And it had to be a setup.
Wow.
And here's the other thing: how fast the media turned on him. Where did that come from?
Well, they didn't turn on him. Well, they didn't turn on him right away. The word wasn't out yet, So I heard him. They were saying again, well, what a fabulous debater.
Yeah, right.
He was and everything,
But once it turned,
and then the next day, Pelosi did
a
couple calls, and it was all over but the crying.
I look around.
He wasn't going to get out.
Yeah, I just look around and I think, what has happened?
Oh, and then Kamala makes the one decision that they allow her to make, I guess, because she can't go with the Jew because they're all the pro-Palestinian people are will go up in arms, and she makes the one decision and goes with Tampon Tim, the craziest son of a bitch that's in the government.
You know what my belief on that is? I have a feeling, this might be a little out there, but I have a feeling nobody else wanted the job. Who would want to be attached to her?
Well,
you're ending your political career. If she actually gets elected and you're her vice president, you probably have zero chance of anything in politics after that.
Well, that's what I was thinking about Nikki Haley too. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. This is all. This, there's a chance she can win this thing. She's not that far behind, and with all the cheating,
well, that's the other thing you have to expect. How did she go from the least popular vice president ever, I think, to all of a sudden she could win this against who might be one of the most popular candidates since Reagan?
Yeah, you can't tell me that they're not just voting against Trump. I mean, that's been indoctrinated into people.
I'm not even sure, though, if there are enough. I don't think we're getting the real numbers. Why would we think we are? The polling companies are no different than media companies. Polling companies can put out any kind of data they want.
The one good polling company of the last election, they were out of Florida. You remember? And they were spot on every state. They called. What was the name of that company?
Yeah,
there's also look them up.
There's also one guy, and I don't remember his name either, that has like a stellar track record going back like 40 years picking who's going to win the presidential race. And I guess he's been really, really accurate. And guess who he's picking? He says Kamala is going to win this.
Kamala.
Yeah.
Did you see the Venezuelan elections where Maduro came away with a miraculous? Did you see how when they tracked that on like a graph?
Yeah.
How that worked out, and then it matched up perfectly to how how Biden's win was.
Yeah. Yeah, that big surge overnight when everybody's sleeping.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nothing to see here. Move along. You were talking about the Olympics and that. I don't know if you saw that. I haven't been watching them, but I saw the last fight that the poor girl from Italy fought. I want to say Albania, the guy anyway.
Right, Algeria, I think he is.
Yeah,
Algeria.
Yeah. What a travesty! What a travesty! How come people aren't really? I mean, I haven't even heard much about it, and talked to a couple people, and I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not watching the Olympics, but what a shame, man.
So here's one of the things.
She trained her whole life.
So here's one of the things I wanted. I don't even know how to really say this, but as I'm looking at all these crazy things going on, men beating up women in the Olympics. I mean, that's really what that came down to. That was a man beating up a woman on worldwide television.
She said she'd never been hit that hard.
And
been hit that hard.
Right, and she's at the Olympics. I wonder if people realize I actually dealt with some Olympic level training in wrestling. A coach that I worked for on club wrestling. I was a high school coach, and I was very active in club wrestling almost year round for several years. The coach that ran the club that I coached in was Olympic level. He had access to the Olympic level training center.
And wow.
Two of his sons could have made it to the Olympics. They were darn close. And he had access to the Olympic training center for years. So you realize the people that make it to the Olympics are kind of freaks. They're freaks of nature.
It's the next level.
They've done.
No, it's different.
Years and years and years, starting as kids, because most of the Olympic athletes are really young when you go to the Olympics. So that means you had to start really young. And that is their whole life to get to that level. I mean, that's all they do. So for her to be there, she has spent a lot of time in the ring boxing women. And all of a sudden, she quits in 46 seconds and says, I've never been hit that hard in my life. Something's wrong.
And probably sparring with men.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Sparring
she
with
has,
men, probably has a man coach.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not like she hasn't been hit before.
Exactly.
I could get hit. I could get hit by probably some random guys. Oh my God,
Yeah. No, she's been taking punches her whole life to get to this level. Since a very young age, she's been doing this to get to this level. And for her to quit in 46 seconds. But I don't even know we need to argue the details. When you have an XY, I mean, it's a biological thing. We can argue about, well, they live like this and their passport says that none of that matters. That this should be so. This is kind of my point, and it's about a lot of things we're dealing with right now. We have a potential vice president who thinks it's okay to change some child's gender without the parent's permission. That's the kind of laws they've passed in Minnesota. So I look at these things, and here was kind of my overriding thought. I have very, very clear opinions about all of these things, and I am just shocked that they are even issues and we're talking about them. But I have to stop and realize there are an awful lot of people who believe this is okay, and they believe I am the unreasonable one. And I have to think, am I somehow? I mean, I can't possibly be right about all of these things, but these things don't even seem close to me. Now, I can remember when the political differences we had. Right. And I can remember when the political differences we had, you could kind of at least make an argument for the other side. There is an argument to be made that we should spread the wealth around so that everybody lives a better life, and that we don't have people living in poverty and other people who could buy the moon if they wanted to. I understand why some people would believe that it would be better that the more successful you are, the more you have to contribute back to society to help other people. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But I can understand
but
it.
I can understand your side.
Right.
No,
right.
Exactly.
It's not that you're going to get me to change my mind about a welfare state, or I have very strong opinions about those things, but I can understand the other side. But we are now in a place where I cannot even begin to comprehend how those people think. And I have to believe they can't comprehend how I think. I don't know what you do with that.
Remember, we were talking about that. You were talking about how Trump he's divisive, and we've got to come and meet in the middle, and that's what I was trying to tell you. I'm like, well, what are give away to the left, and because they're not going to come and meet.
So here's the other thing I question about my own beliefs now. So as a libertarian, I realize I'm not in the middle. A lot of people think, oh, well, you agree with the Democrats on some things, you agree with the Republicans on the other, you might be right in the middle. No, I'm kind of at both edges. I will admit, I'm kind of at both edges. So then I start to wonder, is it really, are my beliefs the ones that are like out of whack?
No, right. Well, if yours are, mine are too, because we agree on most everything, and I think that most logical people do. The critical thinking has gone out the window, but it, you keep telling a lie long enough, like they say, and people start believing it, and especially when you start hitting them when they're 5 years old, 6 years old in school with this stuff, it becomes fact. It's not a debatable subject.
one of the things that I see because I try to follow people of all political persuasions on social media, so I get to see what the people are really saying, because we all see the media. I mean, we see the media everywhere, every day. We know what they're saying. So in some of these groups or conversations going on online, one of the biggest fears I see from people, they absolutely believe that the day Trump gets in office, he will become a dictator and the country is done. They believe that.
Right.
Where does that come from?
Right. Well, yeah, no, it comes from their indoctrination and their belief that they believe what these people say, lock, stock, barrel. It's just gospel. It's like reading the Bible, and it is scary because I don't, after, if Trump does get in from election day to inauguration day, there is gonna, they've already purged the military. This could get very, very serious.
I'm wondering what outcome could happen that won't be really serious. That's my biggest worry now. I would love somebody to explain to me some outcome that isn't going to tear the country apart at this point.
No, I don't see one, Kevin. I do not see one. Even, but I mean, the right's not organized enough to hold an armed, insurrection. But what will happen is if she gets in there, they are coming for the guns, and that's when it will spark off. For sure.
Yeah.
Because there's no way. There's just no way.
Here's one I'm a little surprised about, that I actually saw some mainstream media coverage on this issue yesterday. It was really popping up all over social media, and then I saw the mainstream media even commented on it. And CNN seems to be coming back to their senses a little bit. I'm a little shocked at some of their reporting lately. It's better than I expect from them. This whole issue of his stolen valor, Waltz's stolen valor, that could turn out to be a really serious issue. So there's two things, and the media tried to put a little bit of a spin on it. There's two issues here. Has he lied about having combat experience? And he has, in a sense. There's at least one video where he clearly says, I don't want the weapons of war that I carried in war, I think he says, to be on the streets.
Right.
So you're right. They want to come after our guns. Weapons are weapons. There's no such thing as a weapon of war or an assault weapon, or that's not how the Second Amendment works. There is nothing in there about how powerful the weapon might be, or it's just the government cannot interfere with our ability to bear arms. That's really what the Second Amendment comes down to. So he said that he carried them in war. Well, sorry, he was never in war. He was deployed once, and it was to Italy. And when his unit was deployed to Iraq, he retired. So people are kind of pissed about that.
And he real pissed, and that's not going to go away. He needs to address that, and don't think for a second that if the polling numbers come back shitty because he's on the ticket, that they don't drop him like a hot rock.
Well, that comment they could probably fix. It was a wording thing. He just slipped. He didn't really mean to say he carried them in war.
But he has to address it.
He does have to address it, and he's not. He's ignoring it. But then there's another one. He also claimed that he retired as a command sergeant major. It's not true. The Minnesota National Guard has already verified that. He did reach that rank at one point, but for some reason, he got busted back to a sergeant major and retired as a sergeant major. Now, that's either a lie or not. I mean, that one, there's not a lot of fudge room in there. You either retired at this rank or you didn't.
Yeah. as he retired as master sergeant. He got the rank of sergeant major because he was supposed to go to the sergeant major academy, which is
Right.
I don't know, 4 or 6 years, and he never even. It wasn't like he quit during his last
Right.
exam. He didn't go at all. He didn't do any
Now,
of it.
I've also seen there's a group of Green Berets that are going after him because there's multiple pictures of him wearing hats and insignia from the Green Beret. Now, I don't know if there's any law against that but it doesn't look good at all when you're already being accused of stolen valor, and now they're making it look like you were really trying to embellish your career.
Yeah, and that doesn't go. People don't take kindly to that. I mean, you served. That's got to stick under your craw a little bit.
Well, I think it does for everybody that served. Here's the thing.
Well, everybody that even didn't. Everybody that didn't.
Right.
Even,
Here's the crazy thing. He did serve in the National Guard for 24 years. That should be a good thing. That should be a positive. I'd love it to be a positive. But based on what we hear about your career, it's not a positive at all. It's almost like you made a mockery of the military.
No.
You took the benefits for 24 years. You accepted the pay and the benefits, and then when it was time to go, pay the piper, you quit. Now, here's the thing people don't realize.
Deploy, right.
It's one thing to say, well, I've done this for 24 years. I'm just retiring. Well, the problem is if you've been in the military, those are the people you've been training with all this time, and now it's time to actually go somewhere where I might die. Iraq was a really dangerous place. And you quit. Now your unit is in shambles as they have to go to war.
And I want to know the timeline from when he was supposed to be deployed to when he retired or quit or whatever. That's important. Was it 15 minutes after he was going to be deployed when he heard that he said,
I heard at least.
Did he put in his retirement before?
I heard at least 2 people on mainstream media, Nancy Pelosi was one of them, that made the claim that J.D. Vance didn't have any military experience. How could Nancy Pelosi not know that?
Combat experience.
No, Nancy Pelosi said no military experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's not she's not all there either.
Well, she sounded pretty drunk when she said it, but J.D. Vance has been very clear that he did not have combat experience. He's made that very clear. He was in Iraq, and just being in Iraq was a dangerous place. You didn't have to be on the front lines. All bases were being bombed, so no matter where you were stationed over there, you were in danger of dying.
Yeah. I mean, and he went. I mean, he wasn't. He finished the role that whatever they asked him to do, he did.
Right.
It wasn't. So it's a little different than going. I don't feel like I didn't even know you could quit the Army. You know what I mean? I wasn't aware that you could just. I'm just going to retire. I didn't know you could even do that. They have the stop loss and the rest of it. We said that we were going to let you go, but we put the stop loss thing in and we're calling you back. So I have heard that. So I didn't know you could just retire, when you wanted to.
Well, you really can't. I mean, there should be consequences most of the time. You have usually committed for some period of time every time you re-enlist. Now, I don't remember exactly the rules in the National Guard. When I signed up, you actually sign up for a full 6 years. Even though I knew I was only going in the military active for 3 years, you sign a 6-year commitment. That means when you come out after 3 years of active, for the next 3 years, you can be called back at any time. And that's not being in the reserves or the National Guard. That's just that you made that commitment for 6 years. Now, a lot of people, and I did it when I got out, I decided to spend my 3 years inactive as National Guard. So you do the weekends,
Yeah,
the 2 weeks. So, I was already committed. If something happened, I was going to get called back anyway. So a lot of people will do that. That's not how he ended up in the National Guard. He was never in the regular Army. He never served full time.
No, never.
Right. He never served full time. He served part time for 24 years.
And that's not to
it's not a bad
disrespect
thing.
the National
Right. It's
Guard
not a
in
bad
any way.
thing at all.
You know what I mean?
But we should be clear about that. There is a difference.
Those guys, yeah, those guys were badass in Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff.
Now,
when they went, they did everything.
Here's one of the things that when you're in the military itself, if you have to go to war, the attitude in there is you don't want to be led by somebody who hasn't been full time ever. It's not that you don't have the same respect. Well, you just realize their experience is not the same. He made it to that rank, a very, very, very high rank, but he never really was full time. There is a difference.
There's a huge difference, and I don't know how he achieved the rank that he did and was able to.
Well,
I don't know who's behind. I don't know who this guy's father is. I don't know what his the inside people that he knows, but something's fishy about this whole military service thing.
Well, the other thing I wonder about is how did they manage to find somebody farther left than Kamala and actually think that was a good idea?
And that's
you would have thought the opposite. You would have thought they would have picked somebody much, much closer to the middle.
Well, that first rally that she had was in Philadelphia, where she was supposed to pick. I think they expected her to pick Shapiro.
They did. I think he turned him down. I really do. I think that people were running for the hills.
His speech sounded like it was the speech that he was going to make for it. It was kind of like an acceptance speech.
Yeah, and that's easy enough. I mean, it won't hurt his political career because everybody will forget that. So he'll still be fine 4 years from now. But if he were to accept the VP nomination, that's almost like political or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe we have moved so far that it's not going to matter. I don't know.
Well, when was the last time you heard Sarah Palin doing anything? Or the Mondale's people and all that. All right. Well, cool. Right. I know you only have an hour.
Hour. Thanks for the call. I do have to get to some calls now. Let's go to Iowa. Jesse, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Well, little recap. Back about 10 months ago, October-ish, I started to go on the keto carnivore diet.
Okay.
My blood pressure always ran, up in the almost 1 year medical card. And so I got on that. Now my blood pressure is down in the teens, over 20s. And so fast forward, my wife was having all kinds of issues. I'd called you a couple times about it and kind of got some information. And finally got her to start eating the way I do. And by far, I mean, we haven't been exactly perfect.
Nobody is.
But in January, she had blood work, and she was deemed pre-diabetic with a 6.2 A1C, and her cholesterol was 111.
Ooh.
So
111?
in July, yes.
Now let's go back.
In July. What's that?
Tell me how she was eating prior to those numbers and for how long. Give me more specifics about how she was eating.
Standard American diet, which we'll get into this. I mean, it was pasta and not very much protein and sugar and which, I was doing that prior to me starting too.
And
but anyway, I finally talked to her.
Very low fat.
What's that?
Probably very low fat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I finally got her talked into eating better, more keto than carnivore, but at least got rid of all the sugars and whatnot.
Okay. Good.
And so now in July, she took another blood test. And here's what I find interesting. The diet, her numbers, her A1C went down to 5.7.
Okay.
But her cholesterol went to 300.
Excellent.
She called me freaking out. Oh my God, my cholesterol's 300. I
Excellent.
said, yeah. So
right, that's 300 used to be completely acceptable. There was a time where 300 was completely acceptable to everybody for cholesterol. And then they wanted to sell more statins. So they just kept pushing that number lower and lower and lower. So more and more people went on statins, and the results have been disastrous. It's amazing. It's awesome that her cholesterol's 300. Congratulations.
Well, and that's what I told her. You know, she was, well, what if my doctor wants to put me on something? I said, well, tell him no. I said, exactly. 300's fine. Well, who am I supposed to listen to, you or the doctor? I said, well, let's look at it this way. Before you were eating a diet that had your blood sugar high and your cholesterol low, and now you're eating food that's got your cholesterol high and your blood sugar low.
Exactly the way it should be. And not once did
her doctor let's think about this for a little bit.
Not once did her doctor ever even mention her diet. I'm positive of it.
No. So I don't know. I just kind of thought those numbers were interesting to see, and you know, like I said, she's like, well, I don't know if I should listen to you or listen to the doctor. I said, you know, I said, I'm not the one, nor is the guy that I listen to the one making money off of either
Jesse, let me ask
statins or insulin or anything like that.
Let me ask you this. I have to believe, maybe I'm wrong on this one, but I'm usually not. I have to believe that she now feels much better and things have improved in her health.
Yeah.
Have they
not? Oh, yes. Yeah, before she was
better?
Always nauseous. She had a lot of headaches all the time. Now, she still gets the headaches. Sometimes we think that's just more of a alignment issue, because every once in a while she's gone to the chiropractor and gotten the back popped.
It might
that would go away.
Chiropractic would help, but we could identify some other things. She probably still has some inflammation. She might have some food she's reacting to poorly.
Yes.
We could dig and find those things and make her feel even better. But one of the ways I would approach her on this, because she's experienced it. You know, sometimes our biggest challenge is getting somebody we love to try this. You got her to try it. She got the results. She's freaking out about a number on a piece of paper. Well, why don't we talk about how you feel?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And we kind of talked about that. You know, it's, you know, those numbers, they don't matter to a certain extent, and you know, the fact of the matter is she's lost 40 pounds. She feels better.
That's what I mean.
And
has she ever been able to lose 40 pounds this easily before?
What's that?
Has she ever been able to lose 40 pounds this easily before?
You're breaking. Has she ever been able to lose weight before?
40 pounds easily.
Yeah, back right before we got married, we kind of did the same thing, and she was able to lose a lot of weight then, and then, you know, life just happened, and
wait a minute. When
let
you say
the
same thing, do you mean a higher fat, more animal protein diet, like Atkins or something like that? Is that what you did back then?
Probably not as much as this time.
No, that's not what I'm saying. She didn't lose weight. Both of you didn't lose weight back then because you went to Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers. Or
right.
You didn't starve yourself with a calorie deficit. You did some sort of a low carb diet.
Right. Yeah. We cleaned up our diet.
So she has now seen
this
that
time around
twice. She has had the experience now of it working twice.
Right.
But her biggest concern
this time around,
a number on a piece of paper.
Yeah. This time around, she's been going to the gym for the last year, which that makes her feel better mentally. So great. We'll continue that. But in the last 6 months also, I got her talked into going for a walk at least 3 times a week. And now she'll get up and walk 5 miles before she goes to the gym. And I think that has helped more than even doing the gym work.
Well, all of it is good. I mean, all that activity is good for us. I have really changed my minds about gyms. I used to own a gym. Now, to me, I don't even want to think about going to a gym. I mean, I don't want to think about, even in the wintertime, even going down to, I've got a gym here at the house that I built, kind of a little biohacking lab. I don't want to go down there and work out. I would much rather figure out a way to go outside and just be active more. But I would never criticize somebody for going to a gym and working out. It's better than not doing it. It's better than not being active. If people can sustain it, I always struggled sustaining, even when I owned a gym. I struggled sustaining working out in the gym because after a while, I just get really, really tired of being inside and doing the same thing over and over and over. But I would never tell her not to do that. But I'm with you. Those walks, I believe, are more beneficial.
Yeah. So anyway, I just really, I thought those numbers were an interesting correlation with each other.
Here's the thing. They are exactly what we would expect, and they are exactly what we're shooting for.
Yeah. So I do have one more quick question.
Sure.
My daughter is 10 years old, and she still has a bedwetting issue. If we get her up a couple times in a night, is usually dry. But I'm wondering, is she just a hard sleeper and doesn't feel it, or do you think there's something? Her diet is fairly decent. She stays with my mom during the week, and my mom's a whole food kind of. She cooks everything for the most part. So
yeah, fairly decent doesn't tell me much of anything. I would have to know exact. My guess is it is going to be at least partially diet related, but she could also have some. She could have some structural issues going on. You mentioned a chiropractor earlier. You might want to take her to a chiropractor. She could have some emotional eating issues or some emotional issues, maybe not even around eating, but that's what's causing this. It's not normal. Something has gone wrong. There are a couple of areas. It could be, emotional. It could be structural. Could be physical. I'm sure the diet is contributing to it. I doubt that it is the sole cause. This is one that really, I would explore at least starting with a chiropractor, or maybe finding her a good functional medicine practitioner to work with, or we could work with her in the coaching program. And if we work with her, it's going to be strictly nutritional to begin with.
Right.
But yeah, I would address it. It's not normal at that age, and it does indicate something has gone wrong, and it would be better to address it.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's all I got for today, and you got about 15 minutes. You better get on.
Thanks for the call. Yeah, I got to knock out a couple of them now. Let's go to Tennessee. Zach, good morning.
I have actually just got into Alabama, so now it's Zach in Alabama.
There you go.
I was catching just a little bit of what you were talking to the guy. You said about the XY chromosome and all that nonsense, and you made the comment, am I the one that, no, you're not, okay? I don't know if it's pronounced the Pareto or Pareto principle of 80-20, But obviously it could never be done. But if you could get every American to take an anonymous survey, I'm not a gambler, but I bet it's less than 5% of the actual American population would agree with these nuts. But they're screaming so loud.
Yeah.
What's that?
I would hope that is the case, but after a while, when I see it being so accepted, I see it all over the media, I see it all over social media, I see it being accepted. Nobody will ever discuss it rationally, though. I've asked for people to come on the show, and I've even said, look, I won't really debate you. I just want to hear your explanation for why you agree with some of these things. So just let me ask you about this topic. I'll let you say anything and everything you want to say, and I won't try to argue with you. Because I want somebody to explain to me why they think this way, because I can't understand it no matter how hard I try. And yet I can't ever get anybody to explain to me rationally why this would be okay in their mind.
Well, you said, let me say it this way. I think a lot of it is fear. If you were to question 10 people, I bet you 9 of them say, well, you said it's becoming so accepted. I bet you 9 of the 10 people are like, hey, man, I don't want to cause a problem. It's fear of we're scared to death that someone may think we're, outside the mainstream.
That worries me. Are people that afraid of other people's opinions?
Yes. Yes.
That's scary. That's
Donald
scarier
Trump,
than all the weird stuff to me. Really, we could put all this stuff aside. I think it's insane that we are watching men beat up women on worldwide TV. I think that's insane. But set that aside. I'm more afraid of people who are too afraid to voice their opinion about that. That worries me more than anything.
The machine is at it again. And full disclosure, I didn't vote for Donald Trump either time. The last presidential candidate I voted for was Ben Carson. But the machine that told us for 20 years that you can't say this and you can't say that and you can't say this. Donald Trump said all of it and he got elected. That means not only is it not politically correct, it is politically correct. But this same machine of this handful of people that scream so loud, and it's like the 2-year-old. Eventually you're just like, fine, what does he want? Okay, just give him what he wants, so he'll quit screaming. And I think it's somewhere between you just don't want the fight and fear, but there's also a push and an influence. Our son's 19. We sure haven't got everything right, and we're not perfect, but he was raised in an extremely conservative Christian home for a good portion of his life. And when this thing with Hamas happened, he wasn't being disrespectful or anything. This was his honest feelings. He said something about Israel shouldn't respond too strongly. And I got mad. I'm not super pro-Israel either, but there's something out there that's influencing these folks.
Well, here's one of the things I'll say about the whole Israel, Palestine, Hamas. I've been following politics and world events for most of my adult life. That doesn't mean I have tried to dig deep into every issue and understand it. Many I don't. This is one that I've never really put a lot of thought or effort into. I'm shocked at how strong people how strong their opinions are when I'm positive they don't even understand the issue. I don't understand the issue completely.
It doesn't. I agree with you. I don't know what the influence is. Yeah, for people to say, "Oh, we're you're pro what these Hamas folks did." How could forget religion, forget anything?
What I mean.
How could you be pro what these people did?
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean.
But you're seeing so much of it, and I don't understand it either.
And that's my biggest thing is most of the people that have an opinion about this, it's a very ill-informed opinion. They don't understand the history of that region. They don't really understand who all the players are, and yet they have these really strong opinions about it. So you're right; they're being influenced somewhere. Let's go to Florida. Pat, welcome. Oh, let me hit that button again. There we go. Go ahead.
Okay. Just wanted to talk about yesterday. You mentioned moving forward with how you want to do things with the show and health and all of that stuff. I have been listening for a long time, and I remember one of your calls from way back when. And the guy called up and said, Kevin, you saved my truck, you saved my job, you saved my career, and you saved my life. You remember that call?
I do. How can you forget a call like that?
Kevin, that call to me was greater than your 13 cents a mile call. And I followed them all, and I followed the 13 cents a mile, and it all goes back a long time. But on that day, my thought was, imagine the people that work for Kevin Rutherford who now think, I'm glad I work for Kevin Rutherford. He makes me feel like I'm doing something worthwhile.
Yeah.
So when I think of that story and I go back then and I think about that, I think about you moving forward. And yes, there's plenty more for you to do. And I think it revolves around training people for managing their own cancer, taking control of their problems, using all of the knowledge you have with regards to lifestyle and a ketogenic diet. And I think you could also make a lot of money doing that too.
Yeah, I've talked about this in the past, and this is one of my struggles. It really is. When I look at, where do I want to be in the next 10 years? What do I want to do for the next 10 years? Considering my own health, I know a part of this, what I do all day long, isn't conducive to optimal health. And I every day I have to decide, do I want to continue to do that? And it is a struggle. I will say it's a struggle because I see those kinds of stories that's what motivates me. The problem for me now, and it's not really a problem. The one of the issues with me is I'm no longer motivated by money. And that's been a challenge for me for a lot of my life. I love starting companies. They get to the point where they're starting to grow, and I'm not interested anymore. It's the challenge of the startup. So now I've tried to manage that because I like the company we've built now a lot. I love what we do. I love the tribe. I love my schedule and what I get to do every day. And I don't really want this to grow. I've thought about bringing in and hiring a CEO and growing the company so we could help more people. But the problem with that is I tend to lose interest. And I don't want that to happen this time. So I've got to find that balance between, I have a goal to live to 100. I really want to reach that goal, and I think it's possible. I know it is entirely possible. I could take young human beings now and almost guarantee they're going to live to 100 unless an accident kills them. I'm convinced of that now. So I just want to find that balance of I love what I do and I want to keep doing it. I want to be able to help more people. How do I do that and still control my own time?
Well, I think one of the things you're already doing with your different groups that call in, you charge monthly. There's 1,700 people a day that die of cancer, and there only needs to be 800 to start with. And the way that happens is they take control, but somebody needs to guide them.
That's a good point.
That would be you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And along those lines, I've heard that MD Anderson, the cancer specialist, they're starting up a lifestyle division at their hospital to counsel people. They're finally admitting that it's not just drugs and radiation and surgery, butchery.
Excellent.
It's also lifestyle, and it's mostly lifestyle and diet.
It really is.
In addition, Mercola is coming out with a new book on cellular health and the mitochondria, which it all revolves around. And Mercola is also starting up health clinics.
Yeah,
I think to do the same thing I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, no, it really is good to see those trends, and the trend in books and information right now is exactly that. We are down to the cellular level on everything now, which means we have finally found the root cause of almost every chronic disease now. It happens at the cellular level. When Mercola first came out, he was one of the first people, like he's been on a lot of things, came out and said, hey, we've talked about how bad grains are and how bad sugars are, and they are, and how bad forever chemicals are. They're bad. But he came out and said, I believe the worst offender in our diet is seed oils. And I thought, has he lost his mind? Where does that come from? I get it. Seed oils are bad for us, but I didn't understand where he was coming from. Well, now almost the last 5 books I've read have all really focused on cellular health. The health of every cell in our body will determine the health of our body. Once it's said, you think, well, of course that's true, but we weren't saying that a year ago or 10 years ago. So it is new. But once you understand that, then you understand why seed oils are the biggest offender. Because every cell in our body has to be built from fat. And if you're building it from damaged, horribly toxic fats, you're right. We can't be healthy if that's what we do. So it's, that movement now that everything comes down to the cellular level. I had, Casey Means on the show. That's what her whole book was about.
Well, I think it's revolutionary for most people. Only 1% or less of the population knows this stuff, and the rest need to be informed. And that's your job in life.
I appreciate it. I really do. I do want to grab this last call. I might even be on time this time. We'll see. Let's go to Kansas. Bob, welcome.
Hey, Kevin. I've been keto now, and this is probably pretty close to 6 years that I've been keto, and then I moved on to carnivore, and then carnivore, and I keep getting this recurring cold that just comes up. It's like once or twice a year, and it just gets me. And I was just curious, why would this keep happening? And this time it was I went swimming, and I had this funny thing in my ears, like the water had got trapped in my ears, and I was just curious, would that have anything to do with it, or what do you think is going on?
It could. I mean, we could look for what triggers the infection, but the bigger issue isn't what triggered it, because we can't do anything about that. The viruses, bacteria, germs, they exist. They're all around us. They're always going to be around us. So it doesn't really matter what triggered it. The real problem here is your immune system isn't fighting it. That's what we have to focus on, not trying to avoid whatever the trigger was. It very well could have been something in that water. Yeah, that could have done it. But there's no reason to focus on that, because we can't do anything about that. Our bigger question is, okay, you were exposed to a pathogen, a virus, a bacteria, whatever. Why didn't your immune system defeat it? Why is it gaining hold and creating the symptoms? And I just went through this. I mean, that I had not been sick at all, 0 for 8 years. And then all of a sudden, 3 times in 18 months, I was pretty darn sick. 3 or 4 days of not functioning sick. And I was saying the same thing. What is going on? And I'm still digging into this. Every time I got sick, I was traveling. So I could say, well, there's the trigger. Well, but that's still a problem. I mean, sure, I was exposed to a lot of people and a lot of bacteria and a lot of viruses. Fine. Why isn't my immune system defeating them the way it has for the last 8 years? So 2 things we're down to right now. One, just stress. My HRV, have you ever measured your HRV?
I haven't, no.
Okay. That would be an interesting number to know. Almost all the wearables anymore can do this. It's a good number to know, because I can show you on mine, every time I got sick, my HRV was about 20 points lower than what it should have been. And that's mostly stress. That it was a little bit of diet. I could clean up my diet a little bit, but honestly, when I cleaned up my diet too much, and I've talked about this, went really strict carnivore, I think I threw everything out of whack. There were some really good benefits to doing it, but there were some downsides for me. And it went along with the travel and the stress of a brand new CMC for the first time. And I got pretty darn sick. That was last year at Louisville. That was mostly stress related. And then
the reason I ask is because the colds all feel the same. It almost seems like it is the exact same cold over and over and over again.
Technically, that can't happen. That there has to, or if it did, your immune system is really screwed. For the most part, we only get a specific cold once. And then our body usually develops antibodies to it. And then another strain comes along. And so over time, we should have been developing a lot of antibodies to a lot of different strains. But if our immune system is weak, none of that matters. Or if our immune system is weak, even if we have antibodies to that particular strain, it doesn't mean we can beat it. The antibodies aren't strong enough. Our immune system has been weakened. Now, like I said, there's two possible reasons for mine, and I haven't. Maybe this trip again, I've got a trip coming up, and I'm going to be around a lot of people for a lot of days, and I'm hoping I have a better outcome this time. One, I've been working on reducing stress overall and working on the stress protocol, not as much as I should, but I've been getting away from the stress, spending more time outside, getting away from work more. I just took a vacation. The other possibility, and we're working through it right now, is exposure to mold. And Dr. Wolfson thinks that the exposure to mold is a big part of it. So we have identified where the mold came from. And I'm getting ready to start a very, very deep detox. So we'll see. I believe it has to be one of those two things for me. And I would think that for most people, if you've already cleaned up your diet and this is still happening, it's going to come down to some sort of stress or some sort of exposure to something toxic.
Okay. Hey, Kevin, one more thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention this. I might not get to call you back again, but in about a month, I will have completed a full year of sobriety. No
Congratulations.
Alcohol, no tea, nothing.
Congratulations.
I mean, it's been one of the most amazing things, you know.
I'll bet.
It's not easy. I mean, learning how to deal with your anxiety, you know, and
Right.
not using something to cheat around it
Right.
is something that, you know, I'm not any good at it still. But
yes, you
when
are.
you go sober, you have to recognize that about, and you know, it's so crazy that when I started this, it was just to lose a few pounds. I never thought that I would ever say, "Hey, I'm not a drinker anymore," or have to face those questions and stuff. And
congratulations.
I can't believe something about diet would change so much. Just that last caller when he was talking about changing your life. I mean, if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for, you know, listening to the show and listening, I never would have done that. I never would have overcome something that was in my life that I didn't really realize that was eating up a large part of my life. And I would never said, "Hey, I'm some kind of crazy drinker, you know, I got,
Right,
you know, alcoholic." But I was very much a passive drinker that didn't even understand how much I drank at the time.
Right.
And to not have that in my life anymore is
congratulations.
Wow.
You know, I have believed for a long time. I love the tribe I serve, and I'm not going anywhere. But I think there is a huge opportunity to take this kind of nutritional and lifestyle advice and help people with addictions. I think it would be far more powerful than anything else we're doing for people with addictions right now.
I think so. I think this diet is so powerful that, I mean, I don't have any support. I don't have any family members around me. I don't have anybody that doesn't drink. It's in my face
that's tough.
all the time.
Right.
And I don't know. I can't even explain it, Kevin. I just don't feel like
you don't have to. I can hear it in your voice.
And I don't even like preach about it. I don't, I don't say anything's wrong with drinking, and I never will. I never say I quit drinking. I just am not doing it at this point.
There you go.
And I've seen so many of my friends struggle and go to rehab and do all this stuff and then go right back to it.
Yeah.
And they've spent all this money and time trying. And I'm just like,
hey, Bob, I was talking earlier that we now have gotten down to the absolute root cause of everything. We know you've got to have healthy cells. Alcohol is absolutely toxic to cells. So we do know how to do this now. And it could be very, very powerful. But what you're seeing with your friends who go through rehab and then go right back to the same substance, nobody has addressed the root cause yet.
That's right. That is exactly right.
Yeah. Hey,
it's hard to make people think, hey, I started eating no grains and I started just eating meat. And one day I was like, you know what? Alcohol just is not appealing to me.
Exactly.
What are you talking about? You're nuts. I heard you one time say, nobody lives like you, or yourself, when you were talking about yourself.
Right.
And I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I may not be as strict as you are, but nobody else lives quite like the way I do.
No, it's
nobody
definitely
I know.
unusual.
No, not a single person I know.
Right. Hey, Bob, great call. I do have to move. I was trying so hard to be on time this morning, and I thought I was, but that was such a good call. I didn't want to interrupt it. Sorry, guys. I was shooting to be on time today, and I failed again. Good morning.
That's all right. I was taking a nap.
Okay. Isn't it early for a nap? Well, maybe not for you. It is nap time there.
For Mike?
Not for me.
He doesn't even know what time it is.
What, before I turn you guys loose, what's new and exciting in your world? We haven't talked in a while.
Well, there's something we still can't talk about.
There's two somethings
we
can't
can talk about the other one.
We can talk about the other one?
Yeah, we have to. That's been released.
Go ahead and talk about the other one.
To talk about it. We got, let's see, we're working with Amazon they have not been servicing their vehicles for years. And now they're working with specifically tire dealers to come into their warehouses or facilities and just check on their trucks. And they're going to be using our equipment to check them.
That's exciting. That's big.
Yeah, they bought two systems out on the East Coast, tested them for 60 days. They're so pleased they bought two more, and now they're recommending it nationwide to the people servicing their equipment.
And before you know it, you guys are going to be hanging out with Jeff Bezos.
Not a chance.
I sincerely doubt that.
That's exciting, though. Congratulations.
And then we've got another one that we're working on that we can't talk about that is probably 6 times bigger.
Well, that's quite a teaser.
Yes, it
3
is.
times. 6.
Wow.
Yeah, for us it's 6 times, but for them it's 3 times.
6 times bigger for our potential sales. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
We should know more about that in the fall.
In the fall. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, then we should actually be able to talk about it.
That's exciting.
The thing that we can't, the thing we're interested in, but we still don't know if we'll be able to do is if we can get this famous logo for our usage. I bet we can. I bet we're just not cool enough.
We'll see.
Because there's been certain fleets and manufacturers who have allowed us to use their logos in our advertising, and
Schneider.
Yeah,
we would like a couple of these to let us use theirs. So we'll see.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good stuff. Yeah. So, are you guys ready to take some calls and answer some questions?
The only question I've got is that your audio has been stuttering occasionally, and I don't know if that's your audio or if it's going to be our audio too. So I'm asking our listeners to, if it does, let us know.
Yours has been really solid on my end, so if you're hearing me break up, it's me.
Okay. Well, during our conversation here, it's great. It was during the last call that it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
I bet it cleans up during the recording.
Yeah, I usually blame it on sunspots or the North Koreans.
Yeah, well, you just broke up again just now, so I know between you and us, it's still a little sketchy.
Okay. So I will.
It'll be all right.
It'll
be all right.
Get out of your way and let you answer questions and help people the way you always do.
All right.
You have a good day.
Have a great show.
Thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you later.
All right.
All right. So this is the Rolling Toe Show with Mike and Kevin Beckett of MD Alignment.